Okay.
Oh, are you?
I'm good.
Alhamdulillah, how have you been? I've missed you on Sundays. Yeah, I saw your husband, I told him, and then I saw your son. I said, yeah, we fought for it. Why? I told him not the boy. It's hard, but it's been wonderful because, and I made him, and I told him, I said, you see all these people coming here, if they weren't coming from day one, if they weren't here from day one, you wouldn't see this person. You know, yeah, because I know you were going to Florida. What was it?
The program should be starting momentarily.
Is that going to be live streaming?
Yes. Yes.
It is? Okay, let me know. Yeah, so after Ramadan, we're going to continue it again. And then we're going to have breakfast too, so it'll be fun. No, it's been wonderful. Everybody's been great. It's been wonderful. Because you know us, we're usually in the summer, whenever we go somewhere, it's always in the afternoon. And this is a priority for the kids. So, alhamdulillah. حتى هلا every night I told my husband I'll try to get everything I've done before, and the times that I can't, but he has to make sure to meet the boys. Since when did we ever see our husbands on Sunday?
Oh, I know.
I just that's sad. You know, I started.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين يخادعون قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا كما آمن الناس قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون آمنت بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى الله عليه وسلم.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. First, I'd like to wish you all a blessed holy month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant our prayers and du'as and accept all of our amal. Thank you for joining us for our first night of our nightly programs for Ramadan. Please help me welcome by the salawat, Sheikh, our Maulana, Sheikh Ibrahim Kazerooni to the stage.
صلوا على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ متعته القائلون لا يحصي نعمه العادلون ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنام محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, conscious that His worth cannot be described by any speaker or any phrase, and whose bounties can never be counted. We convey our greeting to the most noble messenger, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to echo what the sister said before me and welcome everyone to the first night of our program. A little bit of housekeeping exercise will not go amiss. We intend to have 30 nights of program here with the glitches that we have to deal with. Quran starts at 7:30 to 8 o'clock, and we start two concurrent programs, Arabic and English, at the same time in different halls. They both start with the recitation of Quran at 8 o'clock, and then we have a lecture and probably another 15 minutes or so at the end for question and answer, the Q&As. I hope, and we try to accommodate a few nights of guest speakers. We have Brother Dawood coming in the 9th, I believe, from Care. And we have Marnini every Friday night will be coming to present. So we have few guest speakers coming in as we go through the program. A few nights we'll have iftar as well, depending on how people make contribution, etc. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Verse 183, Surah Al-Baqarah. O you who believe, fasting has been made an obligation on you as it was made on previous nations. so that you attain taqwa. Let's, for the sake of simplicity at this stage, we will not explain what taqwa is. Let's walk through and then it becomes clear. Fasting of the month of Ramadan, the 9th month of the lunar calendar, Islamic calendar, is a unique act of devotion. Nobody can deny. But if we look at the literature, we will come across a number of comments that say that this act of devotion must lead to acquiring specific moral and spiritual character for the fast to have any meaning. So without acquiring those moral and spiritual character, somehow there is a shortcoming within the fast. It is these consequences that ultimately will determine whether we have succeeded in our mission or we have failed. Those of you who were present during last Friday, this past Friday, a couple of days ago, when I presented before the lecture, before the sermon, and I alluded to Khutbah Sha'baniyah, which is a famous sermon delivered by the Holy Prophet before the month of Ramadan to his disciples and other people in Medina, in which he commands them that the month of Ramadan is approaching, and then describes what you need about this month. It also reminds those listeners that don't be among the group, or may the curse of Allah will be among people that spend the month and do not acquire those spiritual and moral framework that they need to have in their life. Otherwise, this will be simply a futile exercise of hunger and thirst, but the true purpose of the month, that those spiritual and moral characteristics are not attained. The simple act itself, that we abstain from food and drink, including a number of other things, but the simple act of abstention from food and drink has consequences. Particularly for us, living in the most affluent society on earth, that we are overfed, overstuffed, and over everything, and this has negative consequences. Now we have obesity, we have diabetes, we have, you name it, it exists. So abstention by itself has some benefit and consequences for the person who abstains. But whether these consequences are the goal or the mean, this is the debate. If you look at a hadith that we have in regarding fasting, certainly points to the fact that abstention from food and drink is a means so that we mentally become prepared for that spiritual elevation and the spiritual freedom that we need to attain. Ramadan, in a commentary that he has on Khutbah Sha'baniyah, points to this. This is a translation of his comments. إن انقضى الشهر الشريف ولم تجدوا أي تغيير في سلوككم أما قبل شهر الصوم فاعلموا أنكم لم تقوموا بالصوم المطلوب. If the month passes by and you fail to gain any concrete change in your life, in your characteristics, in your behavior, or in your conduct, that by itself a clear indication that the fast has not been done properly. So the idea that we go through fast and we abstain from a number of things, it's a mean. And the Orafa and scholars talk about this, that once the stomach is empty, the mind becomes able to elevate. as long as you fill the stomach. Rumi has a number of poems on this, the positive benefit of fast for the spiritual elevation. So long as the stomach is full, you really don't have the desire, the zeal for the elevation. So when we have the fast of month of Ramadan that we talk about, this abstention, these are only the mean for the higher goal. The verse in the Holy Quran, if we go back at the verse, is quite clear. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. The conclusion is what? لعلكم تتقون. You say that so that you lose weight, or for you to get some social benefit from it. No. لعلكم تتقون. What is this taqwa? That's supposed to come after a lengthy period of abstention and devotion, that they go together hand in hand. This becomes the theme of our presentation during this month. What is it? What is this unique dynamic concept that I have to go? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us, the believers, that He has commanded us to fast, as He has commanded those before us. Well, hopefully one night we will spend some time trying to find out this verse itself is correct or not, in the sense that what happened to the previous nation, what type of fast did they have? But this ultimate goal, the final cause, so that you may attain taqwa, is something that we really need to unpack. It's the social and the spiritual dimension, the moral component, the fact that it reminds us that we have a social responsibility towards others. Taqwa becomes a unique, dynamic characteristic, a way of thinking, thought process that rests on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and revelation, first and foremost, and then dictates everything that is around us. It's like a centrifugal force that holds us together. Everything that we do, it comes back to this concept of taqwa. It's not just that we are become conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, it's there. But this consciousness must translate in our life. I'm conscious, but at the same time, I'm somehow oblivion to the plight or the issues, the crises that we have in our community. That's not true consciousness. I'm conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I am somehow apathetic towards the crisis of the youth and others within the community. It's not going to happen. There's something wrong in the way we define this consciousness. So when we ask people, we see that people talk about, if you ask anyone to talk about the benefit of fasting, they list a number of them. It teaches the person who fasts to become sincere and love. It somehow helps us to become more patient in our life. We feel in the social dimension, we feel the pain of others. Develop a clear and transparent mind. We begin to think. Discipline, how to discipline our lives. Particularly in the West, we really lack discipline because everything is there. We don't need to wait for anything. The notion that, particularly during these days, there are a couple of articles, and I came across them yesterday in British newspapers, that were asking the scholars in Islamic schools or Islamic society or mosques to come up with a solution that these are critical time that our youth are going to give their final exam, and we have this lengthy period of time that they have to fast. That's the whole essence of it. To discipline yourself. You have, in the middle of fasting, particularly these days when the fasting month has come to be beginning of the hot season and lengthy period of the day, long days. The thirst affects you. What are you going to do? The glass of cold, chilled water is there. What prevents you from drinking it? It's that thought that encourages you to work as hard as possible, conscious at the same time that what you are going through would lead to that disciplined lifestyle that we have to have. So the concept of taqwa, when we come to literature, has been defined in various ways. Some people call it God consciousness, some people call it God fearing, some people say it's piety, self-restraining, but all of them, taqwa goes beyond these meanings. It's the absolute submission to the command of God that dictates everything else around that we do. Those of you who are familiar with the verse in the Holy Quran regarding Prophet Ibrahim and others, that when he speaks, he says, my breathing, my life, my death, my existence is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting is supposed to bring that kind of understanding in our lives. No wonder scholars that say, and by the way, Khutbah Shahwaniyah, the sermon of Shahwaniyah says the same thing, that if the month passes by and we have failed to deliver, which means we have failed to really fast properly and bring this notion into our life, that during these 30 days we have to strip the negative characteristics from our life and begin to gain the positive characteristics. Then fasting has not produced the right result. If we go 11 months of what we call glamour stuff or chained to the glamour of material life, the only thing that we care about is food, stomach, etc. We have to really think, if we go back to the beginning of our own life history as human beings, there is no doubt that Islam, in its own worldview, has a unique understanding about human beings. Considers humans to be noble. They sometimes uses the phrase Khalifatullah, the vicegerent of Allah on earth, has given this noble creature that Allah has created for the purpose some responsibilities. This noble creature has potentials and has free will. We see sometimes verses in the Holy Quran makes reference to this unique individual to be higher than anything else we can envisage. And sometimes within the same text makes reference to this unique individual as more beastly than beast. You see verses in the Holy Quran that says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. The best possible model of creation. Best image. إِنِّي جَعَلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to the angel and says, I intend to create a vicegerent on earth that represents and reflects me. These verses clearly indicate that we are talking about something unique. But at the same time, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. When humans don't use their intellect, لَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. Ultimately, these people that are supposed to be crème de la crème of creation, they end up to be punished. What for? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the power of intellect, and they did not use it. They became dogmatic. And then within that verse, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. At least these people does not possess this power of intellect that we have. Hence, they are not expected to come up to that level. But we have that power, and we deliberately, willfully ignore it, and we prefer ignorance than knowledge. So this notion that the existence of multiplicity of these texts within the Quran poses, and quite correctly, we should ask the question: why? Which one? What for? What are the criteria that we should use so that we understand where we position ourselves, which category we fall under? Now, is it purely the materialistic life that becomes the criteria? Or is it the spiritual life? Or are they both? If we look at certain faith and religion, they believe that it is purely spiritual. The framework by which one could judge somebody to be worthwhile, saved, etc., it's the spiritual dimension. Christianity falls into this category. Others say no, more Protestant interpretation of faith, no, say that it has to be more materialistic. The classic debate between this worldly world hereafter, no, this world is much more preferred. Islam says both. One cannot live without the other. The stability in life is not there if we focus on one side without ignoring the other. But what is critical is that we should devoid ourselves of attachment to material. It's the attachment that is fundamental problem, that holds us down, that we constantly think about nothing else but this glamour of this life, the physical reality. Allah has given us the power. إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Has provided us with the guidance, and the guidance from without is the prophets, called 124,000, more or less, whatever. These are the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent for us. Yet, at the same time, has provided us with our own intellect to choose the path that we are going to go through. How do we exercise this free will is the criteria by which we classify ourselves into one category or the other. Shaitan is a classic example for us to remember. Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi in Nahj al-Balagh, he has a khutbah 192, I believe, as-Sa'iqa. He says, فَاعْتَبِرُوا بِمَا كَانَ مِنْ فِعْلِ اللَّهِ, the Iblis. Just remind yourself of what happened to Iblis. All the prayers that he offered. وَقَدْ كَانَ قَدْ عَبَدَ اللَّهَ 6,000 سَنَةً, 6,000 years. And the Imam says, we can't say specifically whether these years that we have is our own years, or there are some different criteria to judge them. That all this prayer did not protect him from one moment of arrogance. From one moment of arrogance. That he was عن كبر ساعة واحدة فماذا بعد إبليس يستمع على الله بمثل معصية كلا ما كان الله سبحانه ليدخل الجنة بشرا بأمر أخرج منها ملكا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to take a human being into the heaven for which the malak, an angel, was kicked out after praying 6,000 years. These are critical issues that we really need to pay attention to. So, what are we supposed to do? We go through the fast during the month, and we really don't come out taking these negative traits that we have. We backbite, we lie, we cheat, we are deceitful, and at the same time we go and pray and we go and fast. And we wonder, why is it the fast is not producing the effect that it's supposed to produce, or the prayer, which is supposed to be a mi'raj and ascension to heaven, is not producing the result. Because it's not done correctly. If we have, during our own lengthy period of, say, 11 months, we have focused on material life and no restraint whatsoever. This is the month that we are supposed to literally shed those negative traits and characteristics like the skin of a snake and come out a new person. If you look at the literature, it says that the person, Khutbah Sha'baniyah clearly talks about this, a person that comes out of the month of Ramadan must be a totally different person from a person that went in. If we go in with all the negative traits and we come out with all the negative traits, what has been the benefit of a month? Nothing more than hunger and thirst, and that's what the Holy Prophet says. These individuals will be cursed because they did not benefit anything else but just went through it as a ritual. Taqwa is something that we really need to unpack. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, in this verse itself, there are 4 major categories that we really need to explain. Who are the mu'minun? Because the verse starts with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. How does Islam see mu'min? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. Sawm. What is sawm? Is it, as I explained, purely the abstention from fasting from food and drink? كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Let's look at what other people, nations before us. How was their fast and how did they deal with it? And then we come and focus on the issue of taqwa. We intend, inshallah, to continue through these various categories. And during the nights that come, during the nights that we have guest speakers, they may choose a topic for themselves. We cannot ask them to speak specifically about our topic. But inshallah, we will be able to deal with various these issues. Sometimes it might be necessary to change the topic that we have planned for the month because of the question and answers, the questions that everyone asks. If I find out that, or the people, sisters and brothers that are present, if they indicate that these questions are critical, that they need to be addressed, then we can always spend the list of questions that, or issues that we wanted to address, and we address those, and then we can go back. I'll stop here and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the privilege of being able to fast this month, the true fast, the way it is intended, and ask everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the soul of brothers and sisters that during the last week we have lost a few of them, inshallah. Bismillah. Now, address few questions, and please, if you have questions, ask, because sometimes these questions become the theme for one of the coming lectures. our intelligence. It was within the context of the two guidance that I alluded to. That we have revelation on one side and human intellect on the other. They are supposed to work together hand in hand. Once they are separate, then we have fundamental problem. The Western, more rationalistic point of view that nothing to do with anything else is another example of one or the other. The debate that exists in the past. But certainly, when we talk about the use of human intellect, it should be within the context of, or at least supplement with the guidance that the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring. So it has to be intellect centered on revelation. They do have to go hand in hand. We can prepare a few of these questions in advance if we want, and then we will be able to deal with them. We don't need to have to go through. So, any other? Particularly the younger brothers and sisters. It's a sermon that the Holy Prophet ﷺ delivered to people in Medina just before the Jum'ah, before the month of Ramadan. It's an extensive, it's a very extensive sermon that begins, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, or people, the month of Ramadan has just arrived, or is arrived, it's coming. And then describe some of these issues we will address, inshallah, tomorrow night and the coming nights. Describe something or explains what is unique about this month. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the issues that is presented, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has organized a grand opening. And we are all invited to that reception. And then the Holy Prophet says that the doors to heaven are open, the doors to hell are closed. Shaitans and shayateens are somehow chained. Opportunities are given for people, the believers, to all this to correct themselves, which means to reflect on what we have done and feel remorseful of the past and begin a new life, a new direction, changing directions. And then around the end of it is the term that he uses. It says that the curse of Allah will be on those who go through this month with all the opportunities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided, and then come out with no change whatsoever beyond that hunger and thirst. Khutbah Sha'ban, if you go to Google and simply type in Khutbah Sha'baniyya, will come. Yes. It's a large document. So, I was planning to, as we go in the beginning of the sermon, each lecture, to get one mas'ala about, or one issue about the fast to discuss it. But before we get to the muharramat and so on that breaks the fast, I want to address one thing, and that is that the fast for those who travel certain distances. During the past few days, people have been calling repeatedly, asking us what is the permitted distance that we can travel before we have to break it and it becomes musafir or travel. All scholars have agreed and addressed that question, inshallah, probably a little bit tonight and a little bit tomorrow night. All scholars agreed that The debate is the distance that breaks you, make you the traveler is around 15 or 16 miles each direction if you travel from their place to some other place. The issue that concerns everyone is in, say, villages where the parameter of the village is quite clear. Where does it begin and where does it end? It's easy for somebody to say, okay, when I reach such a distance, then I start counting 15 miles and I'm the traveler, I can break my fast. But what about big cities, humongous cities like that we have today? You move from one area to another, but still you are part of the same city. Where do we start counting our mileages? They say from when you come out of your district. So if you live in Wayne County, wherever Wayne County's area finishes and you move into some different say, county, then that becomes the beginning of the place that you need to start counting the miles. So as long as you go 15 miles out of that county and then come back again another 15 miles, that you are considered to be a traveler. What should we do? What should we do as a traveler? Again, there are various issues involved. If you travel early in the morning and you know that you are going to come back before noon, you can refrain from eating and drinking. And then once you come back to the city that you are, continue, take any again, and continue with your fast as a if you know that you are coming back. But if you know that you are not coming back, once you are out of the distance, you can break your fast. And then if you have happened to come back, then you have to observe it, but at least not in public that you don't eat anything, but that day has to be covered. Traveling in the afternoon, wherever you want to go, even if you go outside the distance, you can continue with the fast and break the fast in the evening. I have 3, 4 hands up for questions. We have the brother in the back and then we come to the front.
Yeah, even though you're going out of distance, but you're still going to work, then you have to break your fast.
That's a good question. It puts you under a different category that they have designed, the scholars. They say if you have to travel this distance on a regular basis, to go to a job. You work, say, for Ford, and then you live wherever it is that the distance between that place and Ford from your county is more than 15 miles. If you have to travel regularly that distance, it's called Kazerooni. Then you, for that specific place that you travel from your home to your work, if you travel purely for that job, you don't need to break your fast. There is another category, truck driver, that has to travel. There is no specific direction that has to travel, but just has to travel. Another exemption to the law that no, he or she may be able to continue with the safar and what keep the fast without having to break. We have the young brother here and then we got the brother. Go. Well, will you be able to take 3 months of fasting? That's the answer. So we need to make it as short as possible, yet at the same time long enough for people who would like to go through this process of purification to be able to do so. So we can't make it. There is a hadith from the Holy Prophet that says you need 40 days for change, substantive change to take place. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you 30 days, but has given you all the opportunities that exist so that you be changed. So if there was anything else more than 30 days, people would have found excuses not to do it. So that would be one of those.
Okay, I got a question regarding this
social trend that we have in the community. During daytime, we observe fasting for 17 hours. After we break our fasting, a lot of people in the community, it's like the party starts. Like hookah lounges will be filled with people, young people, like people like eating sweet or whatever all night long, playing cards. Is this what the imams were on the bed envisioned us to do at night, instead of like maybe acquiring knowledge, doing prayer or dua, or is it just having fun all night long?
I remember you asked me the same question last year.
Oh, okay.
Last Ramadan, it was exactly the same question.
Okay.
You see, one problem that we have is a trend that exists. We've heard in other countries that after iftar they go to bars and dances and so on, that we have fasted 16 days, we need to enjoy ourselves and relax. Unfortunately, this is not the fast of Ramadan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended. Last year, as I traveled from one place to go to Majma, which we met there was a street that I took. Every single Lebanese house that I passed by on my way to the place, the garage had been turned into literally a hookah station. And then people would come out and sit in the garage, hookahs, tea, and big screens and nuts and everything else. This was the a'mal during the month of Ramadan. And should we be surprised why by the end of the month nothing changes as far as our own character and spirituality? These are the months that every night of it, we have so many hadith that says utilize every second. Because it's a golden opportunity that we may not have it again. This is an issue that everyone has to remind herself or himself. There is no guarantee that there will be another month of Ramadan that we will stand here and Allah will open the door for us, for our sins to be forgiven. The notion that somehow Allah has given us the life for 80 years, 90 years, we can do whatever we want, and then atubu ila Allah min sanatayn, just before I die, it's just fancy. But come and talk to them. Unfortunately, this is their understanding of the month of fasting. Abstention from food and drink. It's not just a hookah after. I have been invited to places that I really refuse to eat. And you see the sufra that they organize, and it's 15 minutes before iftar, they're all ready to jump in. We're supposed to somehow be moderate with our food and drink. And so many ahadith that says, bring the needy and the poor to the table. Let them join you and give them the food, etc. And we don't do that. And we break the fast within half an hour, 5,000 calories are consumed. It's not going, and then we complain, why is it that the month of Ramadan we gain weight instead of losing it? So there's fundamentally something wrong in our perception of the month. It's not just the abstention. They think it's abstention from food and drink. Now I have gone through this length of period, then I can do whatever I want. That requires a degree of thought change, unfortunately.
I hear a lot of people say they want to travel to break the fast. Justify either the first day or the last day, they don't know this. But the purpose of traveling is to break the fast. Can you elaborate on that? Is that what it is?
Well, scholars have been asked about fasting that is done deliberately. I mean, traveling that has been done deliberately and break a fast for whatever purpose. Yom Shak. I'm not quite sure whether it's the end of Shaban or beginning of Ramadan. And instead of fasting it with the intention of Yom Shak, I go and travel. Or when there are doubts as to the last day of Ramadan, whether it is last day or not. Some people decide to travel, to break it. All the scholars have indicated that such an act is permissible. There's no problem. So what you are using a unique concept existing in the jurisprudence, and then you say, because of this reason, I don't want to stay. The problem remains when we travel for sinful purposes during the month of Ramadan. Then what? These are different categories that fall within the question. Some people, during the month of Ramadan, well, as I travel, I don't need to fast, I can go to Las Vegas. That's a totally different concept. Sisters, we need from sisters before we go to the brothers. You have a question? Okay. Go ahead.
What is the technology behind fasting when you travel, or breaking the fast when you travel? Because when I think about it, these rules happened way back when Muhammad was there, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And back then, they were traveling on camels, and not the means that we have right now, cars, air conditioning, and all that. Sometimes I feel like we're missing a point somewhere. So, what is the technology behind breaking the fast?
Well, let's pose a question. When you want to travel, what happens to you? As soon as you want, I'm not worried about the means of transportation. What happens to you psychologically? You become worried, you become tense, have I got everything? Am I going, the purpose for the traveling is correct, etc., etc. Those who say that the shortening of the prayer or the avoidance of fast during the prayer was purely for the transportation, means of transportation, it's their own understanding, because we don't have anything to say within our hadith that it was specifically for the mode of transportation. But certainly we have a number of hadith that talks about your psychological condition. Psychological condition, that you, when during the traveling, you become tense, you keep thinking about certain things, and because of this tension and stress that traveling, even when we travel by air or anything else, the stress is there. It prevents us from the clear thought that we need to focus on a lengthy prayer, etc., which has nothing to do with the word. This is, again, one view. It might be in the future people really find another reason. But various opinions. But certainly, modes of transportation is not the reason for what we say we are traveling now, not by camel, by train, or by plane. And it's much more comfortable and quick. Some people, there is at least one scholar in Iran that says, no, when you are traveling at such a speed around, you don't need to break your fast. Yes, that could be another reason, another rationale for it, that you don't fast here, because we tend, unfortunately, a hadith that we have regarding fasting, it says, yes, there is focus on the month of Ramadan, but there are other hadith that are recommended fast during other months as well. Every Monday, every Thursday, 13th, 14th, and 15th of each month, etc., etc. What we gain during the month of Ramadan is to be practiced during other months. That could be another reason. If you miss it, then you have to do another fast after the month of Ramadan. So these are various rationales that we try to explain, or explanation that we try to provide. But the true reason, I think they start. Sorry, sister. If you had to break a fast, say for sickness or anything that prevents you from fasting, then after the month of Ramadan, you find out how many days you missed, and you repeat those days, you're fasting again. So if you couldn't fast during the month of Ramadan for 2 days, then you go after the month of Ramadan. Once Eid is finished, you fast for 2 days for the 2 days that you missed during the month. So very good question. If you couldn't do the 2 days because the sickness continued, then you don't need to fast. You only pay kafar, which is money you pay to the poor for the days that you couldn't fast. If you were able to fast, then you have to fast. If you were not able to fast, then you pay kafara for the days that you missed. If you forgot them, you have not only qada, you have kafara, and both at the same time. So you have to not only do the fast and pay the poor people as well. Kafara these days they say about $3 to $4 for each day that you miss. So those people who say tamr, which is date, then it comes to around the amount that we specify around $4. Those who say grain will probably around $3. But that's for kafara. Fitriya is something different. Fitriya is, we discussed this inshallah in the future. I think we gone beyond the time. We were supposed to finish. What time is it? 9 o'clock, because they start and come after time. This is
Just a quick question. So if you couldn't fast for sickness reasons, and then you wanted to make it out, you still can't fast because of the sick reasons, you just stay at
kafara. That's it. As long as between one Ramadan and the next Ramadan, the reason or the cause of not fasting persists, whether it is sickness, whatever it is, then once you get to the next Ramadan, you only pay kafara for the days that you have missed. If by any chance you can fast the next Ramadan, so be it. If not, again you do the same thing. You try to fast if you can between one Ramadan and another. If not, you just be. Well, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I just have a quick announcement. Dua Iftitah with the English translation will be in the masjid. We recited in the masjid, so if you'd like to attend, please join. And then I just want to thank you again for joining us. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow night.